Dear listeners, we're back with a new story. Get ready for cheating, revenge, and wild relationship drama. The sun dipped low on the horizon as I stared out of the window, the orange glow illuminating our living room. It was a Saturday, and the world outside bustled with life, but inside, I felt a heavy emptiness settling in my chest. I could hear the faint sounds of children laughing and playing in the street, couples strolling hand in hand, but all I could focus on was the nagging suspicion that had taken root in my mind: Molly was hiding something from me. For the past few months, I had noticed subtle changes in her behavior. Our once comfortable conversations had morphed into quick exchanges, filled with evasions. She'd started working late more often, her phone buzzing constantly with texts she quickly dismissed whenever I entered the room. My heart raced as I remembered the hushed tones of her late-night calls, her laughter echoing through the walls, laughter that seemed too vibrant for just a work friend. Tom. Molly's voice pulled me from my thoughts, soft yet tinged with an edge I couldn't place. She stood in the kitchen, stirring a pot on the stove, her brow furrowed as she glanced my way. "Are you okay? You've been so quiet lately." "Just thinking," I replied, forcing a smile that felt hollow. "What's for dinner?" "Just some pasta. Your favorite." She turned back to the stove, her posture relaxed, but I caught her glancing at her phone again, an action that sent a wave of anxiety through me. As she stirred the sauce, I shifted in my seat, my heart pounding. "You've been busy with work, huh? You've been coming home late a lot." Her back stiffened for a moment before she turned to face me, a smile plastered on her face. "You know how it is. We have that big project deadline coming up. It's just temporary, right?" I swallowed hard, the knot in my stomach tightening. "I just miss you, that's all. We used to spend so much time together." She reached over and squeezed my hand. "I miss you too, Tom. But we'll get back to normal soon, I promise." But that promise felt like a lifeline slipping away, leaving me grasping for something solid to hold on to. After dinner, as she cleared the table, I resolved to take action. I couldn't live in this haze of uncertainty any longer. Later that night, after she had gone to bed, I sat on the edge of our bed, the sheets crisp and untouched, and dialed the number of a private investigator I had found online. The thought of hiring someone to spy on my wife made my stomach churn, but the growing fear of losing her consumed me. "Mr. Tom," Nina answered, her voice steady and professional. "What can I do for you?" I hesitated, my pulse quickening. "I think my wife is having an affair. I need to know the truth." "Affair," she repeated, her tone unreadable. "What makes you think that?" I took a deep breath, recalling every odd moment and suspicious behavior. "She's been secretive, working late, always on her phone. It's just a feeling I can't shake." Nina paused, and for a moment, I imagined her considering my desperation. "I can help you with this. We'll gather the facts, and if there's something to uncover, we will find it." "Thank you," I whispered, the weight of my decision pressing down on me. After I hung up, I lay back in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The next few days would be filled with anxiety, uncertainty, and a lingering sense of betrayal. I had taken the first step into a dark unknown, and I could only hope I wouldn't regret it. The following evening, after another long day of pretending everything was fine, I found myself at the same coffee shop where I had met Nina. I replayed the conversation in my mind, grappling with the prospect of discovering something I couldn't unsee. Would I be able to confront her? Could I even face the truth if it came? Molly arrived a few moments later, her smile bright and carefree. "Hey, you. How was your day?" "Just the usual," I replied, forcing a smile. "How about you?" "Busy but good. I'm excited about that seminar next week in Dallas. Jack's going to be there." My heart sank at the mention of Jack. "Right, your boss. Sounds exciting." "It will be a great chance to network." She looked at me with those familiar sparkling eyes, oblivious to the turmoil brewing inside me. "Yeah, I'm sure," I said, my voice barely a whisper as I fought to maintain my composure. As I watched her chatter away, I realized I was standing on a precipice. I could either dive into the depths of suspicion and heartache or continue to live in the blissful ignorance I craved. But deep down, I knew the truth was lurking just out of reach, waiting to pull me into the shadows of doubt. The week that followed my decision to hire Nina was a blur of anxiety and anticipation. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart raced, and I found myself holding my breath, hoping it was news that would either confirm or dispel my fears. Each passing day felt like a lifetime, and I was trapped in a limbo of uncertainty. Finally, the moment arrived. I sat at my desk, staring blankly at the computer screen when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Nina's number. I took a deep breath and answered. "Mr. Tom," Nina said, her voice calm yet firm. "We have some information." "Go ahead," I replied, my heart pounding in my chest. "I've been following your wife for the past week. She spends a lot of time at the office, which you already know. But I've also found that she's been having lunch with Jack several times. They were seen leaving together on multiple occasions." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Is that it?" "Just lunches." "Not just lunches. They attended a seminar together last month in Dallas, and they shared a hotel room," she continued. "But as of now, I haven't found any explicit evidence of infidelity." I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of her words settle over me like a shroud. "So, you're saying she might not be cheating, but it doesn't look good." "Exactly," Nina replied. "There's a level of closeness that seems inappropriate, but nothing concrete. Do you want me to continue gathering information?" I hesitated, my mind racing. "No. That's enough for now." I hung up the phone, feeling numb. I wanted to trust Molly, to believe in the love we had built over the years, but the growing evidence painted a different picture. Later that evening, I found Molly in the kitchen, her focus on preparing dinner. She hummed a soft tune, the familiar rhythm tugging at my heartstrings. I stood in the doorway, watching her for a moment, trying to reconcile the woman I loved with the woman I feared was slipping away. "Hey, what's up?" she asked, looking over her shoulder with a bright smile that momentarily made my heart flutter. "Just thinking," I said, forcing my voice to sound casual. "How was your day?" "Busy. But good. We finalized a big deal today," she replied, stirring the sauce on the stove. "Jack was really impressed with my presentation. He said I did an amazing job." I felt a bitter taste rise in my throat. "That's great. I mean, it's good that he's supportive." "Yeah. He's a fantastic boss. Really cares about his team," she said, her voice warm with admiration. I couldn't help but notice the glimmer in her eyes. "Seems like you two are getting pretty close." I regretted my words as soon as they left my mouth. Molly turned to me, her smile faltering. "What do you mean?" "I just mean, you spend a lot of time together, you know. It's just something I've noticed. Tom, he's my boss. It's part of my job," she replied defensively. "I thought you trusted me." "I do, I paused, the knot in my stomach tightening. "I've been feeling a bit off lately. Just worried about us, I guess." Molly stepped away from the stove and walked toward me, concern etched on her face. "What are you trying to say? Is this about Jack?" "Maybe. I'm just trying to understand. Why are you working so late? Why do you seem so distracted?" I hated the vulnerability in my voice. "I'm sorry if I've been distant, Tom. It's just work. You know how demanding it can be," she said, frustration creeping into her tone. "You can't possibly think I'd cheat on you." "I don't know what to think anymore, Molly. It's just been hard." The silence between us stretched, the air thick with tension. Molly turned away, her shoulders slumping as she returned to the stove. I felt like a stranger in my own home, trapped in a spiral of doubt and fear. The next few days dragged on, each passing moment filled with an overwhelming sense of despair. I went through the motions of life, but my heart felt heavy. I tried to talk to friends, to distract myself, but nothing seemed to alleviate the pressure building inside me. Then, one night, while I was washing dishes, I decided to confront her again. "Molly, can we talk? Really talk?" She turned off the water and dried her hands on a dish towel, her expression shifting to one of caution. "What's on your mind?" "I want to understand what's happening between you and Jack," I said, my voice steady but laced with urgency. She sighed, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Tom, it's just work. You're making it sound like something more than it is. I thought we were past this." I stepped closer, my heart racing. "But it feels like there's more there. I see how you light up when you talk about him, and it makes me feel like I'm losing you." She crossed her arms, her frustration palpable. "You're not losing me. I love you, but this is a big deal for my career. Can't you just support me instead of doubting me?" "I want to support you, but I can't help how I feel. It just seems like you're more invested in your job than in us lately," I admitted, the honesty spilling out of me. Molly's expression softened slightly, but her defensiveness remained. "I promise you, Tom, I'm not cheating on you. I just need you to trust me." As she turned away, I felt the weight of my suspicions swell within me. Doubt hung in the air like a fog, and I was losing my grip on everything I believed in. I watched her walk out of the kitchen, feeling helpless as the fabric of our relationship began to unravel, thread by thread. The realization settled heavily on my shoulders. Whether I liked it or not, I was on the precipice of a truth I couldn't ignore, and I was terrified of where it might lead. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting soft patterns across our bedroom. I woke to the sound of Molly bustling around the kitchen, the aroma of coffee mingling with the scent of breakfast wafting through the air. I rubbed the sleep from my eyes, but a lingering sense of dread settled deep in my stomach. "Good morning," Molly called out cheerfully as I shuffled into the kitchen. She stood at the stove, flipping pancakes with a smile that seemed almost too bright. "I made your favorite, blueberry pancakes." "Thanks," I replied, forcing a smile as I took a seat at the table. I wanted to enjoy this moment, to bask in the love we once had, but the shadows of doubt loomed large in my mind. "So, about this weekend at Jack's lake house. Are you sure it's a good idea?" She turned to me, the spatula paused mid-air. "Why wouldn't it be? It's a chance for us to relax and spend time together. Jack has invited some other colleagues too. It'll be fun." "Right, fun," I echoed, but the word felt heavy on my tongue. My heart raced at the thought of being around Jack. "Just, you and him, are you sure it's just going to be a casual gathering?" Molly rolled her eyes slightly. "Tom, you're overthinking it. Jack is my boss, and we're all just friends getting together. Besides, you'll be there. What do you have to worry about?" "Maybe it's just Jack I'm worried about," I muttered, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice. Molly sighed, frustration creeping into her tone. "You need to trust me. This is important for my work, and I want you to support me." "I want to support you, but," I hesitated, searching for the right words. "I can't help but feel like there's more between you two." She shook her head, her expression softening. "There isn't, Tom. I promise. Just give it a chance, okay?" With that, I felt a mix of resignation and determination. Maybe this weekend could help clear the air, or perhaps it would deepen the chasm between us. Either way, I agreed to go, hoping it would bring some clarity. The drive to Jack's lake house was filled with tension, the silence between us heavy and uncomfortable. The landscape rolled by in a blur, the trees standing sentinel as we made our way to what I hoped would be a peaceful retreat. When we finally arrived, I was struck by the beauty of the place, a rustic cabin nestled among tall pines, with a stunning view of the lake glistening in the afternoon sun. "Isn't it perfect?" Molly exclaimed, her eyes sparkling as she stepped out of the car. "It's nice," I admitted, though the knot in my stomach tightened. Jack appeared shortly after, stepping out onto the porch with a broad smile. "Hey, you two. Glad you made it. Welcome to my humble abode." "Thanks for having us, Jack," I replied, forcing a smile as I shook his hand. The warmth of his grip only added to my unease. "Come on in. I've got the grill going, and we'll have a great evening," he said, leading us inside. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, the three of us settled around the outdoor fire pit. Laughter and banter filled the air as we shared stories and sipped drinks, but my heart felt heavy. I watched Molly laugh at one of Jack's jokes, the sound ringing out like a bell, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a layer of intimacy between them I could not penetrate. "Tom, how about a little friendly competition?" Jack proposed, his eyes glinting with mischief. "Let's have a kayak race on the lake." "Sure, I'm up for it," I replied, though I felt a twinge of anxiety at the thought of racing against Jack. "What do you think, Molly? Sounds like fun." "Let's do it," she said, her enthusiasm infectious. We grabbed life jackets and headed to the shore, the water shimmering under the fading light. As we climbed into our kayaks, I positioned myself strategically to keep an eye on both of them. The race began, and I pushed myself, trying to keep pace. "You're going down, Tom," Jack shouted, laughter in his voice as he paddled faster. "Not if I can help it." I shot back, trying to suppress the tension creeping back in. Molly cheered us on, her voice ringing out, and for a brief moment, I allowed myself to enjoy the thrill of the race. But as we reached the finish line, I couldn't shake the feeling of inadequacy. Jack pulled ahead effortlessly, and I found myself lagging behind. Once back on shore, I tried to brush off my disappointment, but it lingered. Molly seemed to be enjoying herself, her laughter mingling with Jack's, and the warmth of the fire did little to thaw the chill in my heart. Later that night, as the stars twinkled above us, I found Molly sitting on a log, gazing out at the lake. I walked over and sat beside her, the silence stretching between us. "Had fun?" she asked, her voice soft. "Yeah, I guess. You and Jack seem to get along really well," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. She turned to face me, her expression serious. "Are we really doing this again? You know he's just a colleague, right?" "I know, but I can't shake the feeling that there's more," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's hard for me to see you two together without feeling." "I don't know," threatened, I guess. Molly reached out and took my hand. "Tom, I care about you. I love you. Jack is just a part of my work life. Can't you trust me? I need you to be here with me, fully." "I'm trying, Molly, but it's hard when I feel like I'm competing for your attention," I confessed, my heart aching. "I just don't want to lose you." Her eyes softened, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of the connection we once had. "You're not going to lose me. I promise. We'll talk about this more tomorrow. Let's just enjoy the night, okay?" I nodded, trying to push the unease aside. As the fire crackled and the stars twinkled above, I wished for clarity, for the ability to trust her completely. But deep down, I feared the darkness of doubt that still loomed, ready to shatter our fragile peace at any moment. The morning light filtered through the thin curtains of Jack's lake house, casting faint shadows on the wooden floor. I woke up with a sense of heaviness that matched the gray clouds outside, signaling an approaching storm. I could hear the faint sound of water lapping against the shore and the murmur of voices coming from the kitchen. Molly and Jack were already awake. I took a moment to collect myself, staring up at the ceiling as fragments of the previous night replayed in my mind. The laughter, the way Jack casually placed his hand on Molly's shoulder, how she didn't seem to mind at all. I felt the old familiar knot in my stomach tighten once more, and I knew today was going to be the day I'd have to confront the truth. I swung my legs out of bed, rubbed my face, and headed to the kitchen. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee greeted me, and there they were, Molly and Jack, standing close together by the counter. Molly laughed at something he said, her eyes crinkling in a way that felt both familiar and foreign. She looked up when she saw me and smiled. "Morning, sleepyhead," she said. "We were just talking about taking the boat out on the lake before we leave." I forced a smile. "Morning. Sounds great. You should join us," Jack said, handing me a cup of coffee. "It's a beautiful morning. One last chance to soak in the view." I took the cup, the warmth radiating through my fingers but doing nothing to ease the chill in my chest. "Actually, Molly, I was hoping we could head back home a bit early today. There's something I'd like to talk about." Molly glanced at Jack, then back at me, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "Oh, but I thought we'd spend the day here. Jack was going to show us around a bit more." "Please, Molly," I said, my voice firmer than I intended. "We need to talk." A silence settled over us, thick and tense. Finally, Molly nodded. "Okay. Let me grab my things." We packed up in silence, the air between us heavy with unspoken words. Jack walked us to the car, his hands in his pockets, an easy smile still plastered on his face. "It was great having you two here," he said, though his eyes lingered on Molly for just a moment too long. "Safe drive back." "Thanks," I muttered, not trusting myself to say more. Molly and I climbed into the car, and I pulled out of the driveway, feeling the gravel crunch beneath the tires as we made our way back onto the main road. For the first few miles, the silence between us was deafening. Finally, Molly spoke. "What's going on, Tom?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You've been acting strange all weekend." I kept my eyes on the road, my knuckles white against the steering wheel. "I could ask you the same thing." "Tom, please," she sighed, her tone exasperated. "We've been through this. Jack is just a friend. I don't understand why you can't believe me." "Because it's not just about Jack," I snapped, my frustration boiling over. "It's about how you've changed. How distant you've become. How you light up when you're around him in a way you don't around me anymore." "That's not fair," she said, her voice trembling. "I've been trying so hard to balance everything, work, us, my career. But you keep pushing me away with your doubts and accusations." "I'm not trying to push you away, Molly. I'm trying to understand," I said, my voice softer now, the anger ebbing away and leaving only pain. "But every time I reach out, you seem further away." She looked out the window, her fingers twisting nervously in her lap. "I never wanted to hurt you. I never meant for things to get so complicated." "But they have," I said, the words heavy on my tongue. "And I need to know the truth. Are you in love with him?" Her silence was answer enough, but still, I waited, hoping, praying, that she would deny it. Finally, she turned to me, tears welling in her eyes. "I don't know," she whispered. "I thought I was just attracted to him, that it was harmless, but spending more time with him, I started to develop feelings I didn't expect." I felt my heart shatter, the pieces falling away with every word. "So, you're saying you love him?" "No," she said, shaking her head vehemently. "It's not that simple. I love you, Tom. I do. But I can't deny that there's something there with Jack. It's confusing, and I hate myself for it." The rain began to fall, pattering against the windshield, blurring the world outside. "Then why did you invite me this weekend? Why bring me here, if you felt that way?" "Because I wanted to see if I could let him go," she admitted, her voice barely audible over the rain. "Jack is leaving for England soon. This was supposed to be a way to say goodbye, to get closure. I thought that if I spent this time with him, I'd realize that it's you I want, and I'd be able to move on." "And did you?" I asked, my voice hollow. "Did you get the closure you needed?" She didn't answer. Instead, she began to sob, the weight of her emotions finally breaking through. "I'm so sorry, Tom. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I could handle it, but I was wrong." I pulled the car over to the side of the road, my own tears threatening to spill over. I turned to face her, my voice shaking. "You've already made your choice, Molly. Maybe you didn't mean to, but you did. And I can't keep living like this, wondering if I'm enough for you. Please don't leave me," she whispered, reaching out to take my hand. "We can work through this. I'll try harder, I promise." But her touch felt foreign, like a stranger's hand on my skin. I gently pulled away, removing my wedding ring and placing it on the dashboard between us. I can't do this anymore. I need to be with someone who loves only me. She stared at the ring, her eyes wide with disbelief, her breath hitching as reality crashed down around her. Tom, no, please. I'm sorry, Molly, I said, my voice breaking. But this is where our journey ends. I turned the key in the ignition, and we drove the rest of the way in silence, the rain pouring down like a curtain separating us from the past. As we pulled up to our house, I took one last look at her, my wife, my love, my almost forever. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but no words came out. I stepped out of the car, leaving the door open, and began to walk away, my feet heavy with the weight of every memory we'd built together. I didn't look back, didn't allow myself to falter. I had made my choice. As I drove away, the wedding ring glittering faintly in the rearview mirror, I knew that this would be the final drive, the drive that would take me away from the life I once knew